Welcome to CEO Interviews, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about what's going on at their companies. With us today, we're happy to have him for the first time ever. He's David Gandini, Chairman and Chief Revenue Officer at SOBR Safe, trades on the stock symbol SOBR on the OTCQB. Now, for those of you that are new to the story, and that's got to be pretty much all of you, here's what you need to know. Nearly 50% of industrial injuries and fatalities are alcohol related. Commercial fleets are suffering from over 11,000 alcohol related accidents every year, and that rate is climbing, and technology has failed to keep pace with this epidemic. SOBR Safe, as the name implies, has developed a patented touch-based alcohol detection system for truck fleets, school bus fleets, and industrial workplaces. It's called SOBR Check. It's the world's first touch-based solution to prevent alcohol-related accidents. Now, I've given you a brief description, but rather than try and explain it any further, let's take 2 minutes to watch two short but powerful videos, because seeing is believing.
The unfortunate truth is that alcohol is present in every corner of our work environments, from manufacturing facilities to warehouses and on our roadways. What if you could identify alcohol use in your workplace? With our SOBR Check solution, we identify workers and determine the presence of alcohol. The offender's results are instantly relayed to you via the SOBR dashboard, so corrective action can be taken. Make your workplace safer, improve your business performance, and save lives with SOBR Safe. Commercial drivers tragically suffer the highest fatality rate of any occupation. With nearly 9 million delivery and service trucks on the road in the U.S., alcohol-related accidents cost an average of $3 billion per year. Every week brings horrific new headlines of these tragic accidents. What are we doing to prevent this?
Wow. How powerful were those videos? I think that tells the whole story, but there's more to tell. And here to talk about is David Gandini. David, welcome to Agoracom.
Thanks very much, George. It's good to speak with you again, and we definitely appreciate the opportunity to talk about SOBR Safe and SOBR Check.
Well, look, we have you here because you guys are doing some great things, and the world needs to know about them from an investment point of view, and even from a practical point of view, from a solutions point of view. Let's talk about those powerful videos, and you've got more of those. We just showed a couple, right?
Yeah.
I want to start with an overview of that technology. Just how does it work? Because that seems like really ingenious technology.
Yeah, thanks, George. Well, we've spent, I'm going to back up a little bit. In the United States, the cost of alcohol-related incidents and deaths and injuries is about $105 billion. So myself,
Wow.
Kevin Moore, and our CTO, Dean Watson, we want to make a difference. What we want to do with SOBR Safe is it's a preventative technology. We want to save lives, we want to improve environments, and we want it really to change the behavior of the workplace to support these zero tolerance policies. And we were fortunate enough to find this technology about a year ago, a little bit longer, and we spent a good chunk of time and money. We've raised up to $4 million at this time, and fine-tuning the technology so it's available and ready for the market in the second quarter of 2021.
What kind of, look, before you guys went into this, when you found this technology, you must have done some asking around, right? You talked to your market. What kind of feedback are you getting just in general right now? We'll talk more about the sales and marketing plan, all that, but in general, what kind of feedback are you getting from some of the constituents, fleet owners of fleets, owners of businesses, insurance companies?
Great question, George. So we've spent probably we've gone through 3 series of pilots with the device, and now we're going into commercial production, manufacturing the device in the first quarter. But we spent probably about 3 months in doing a number of different studies and talking to customers. And what we found was that the ability to detect at a personal level, somebody that was, drinking on the job or drinking and driving, it was so arbitrary, and there was no real methodology behind it. And when we introduced the fact that you could simply place your fingers on a device, and you could find out whether or not that individual had alcohol in their system. Everybody is really, really excited about it. And we'll be doing pilots in the first quarter to kind of fine tune and finalize the relationships that we have out there with the early customers.
And I got to tell you, that's what I love about your technology. You know, up until now, up until I met SOBR Safe, the only tech I knew was out there were these blow devices, you know, and it never seemed like those really took off in any way. And even then, it's, you know, it's kind of attached to the car and whether you can turn it on or off, all sorts of problems. I love the fact that you're using, you know, modern day SaaS cloud computing to communicate between the technology and whoever the customer is. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, so the blow devices that are out there are really used primarily in public safety. They have bled into certain workplaces. There are some companies that are out there that are using those devices, but you've got to be trained, you've got to be certified, and those devices take, you know, 45 seconds to over a minute to come to a conclusion. So what we decided to do is, you know, come up with, and keep in mind, George, this is not a blood alcohol content device. This is a go, no-go device. So when you put your finger on that device, our patented technology through the algorithms and some of the things you mentioned, the fingerprint identification, recognizes the presence of alcohol and reports that through the cloud to whatever business manager, whether it be HR, occupational safety, whoever the person responsible for that organization or that individual, they'll get that information real time and they'll be able to act or react accordingly. So it's much different than the technology today because we've tied in the data. Also with the data, George, is that we're going to be able to leverage that data against HR data like absences, tardiness, things like that. And we'll be able to eventually, in probably a 1-year period, we'll start partnering with insurance companies to turn this data into analytics so we can improve environments and behaviors of employees.
Yeah, powerful. When you start getting into data and the kind of analysis that you guys are able to deliver, you're able to do so much more than just your primary function, which is critical. But the ROI must be incredible for customers when you start getting to that level. Let's talk about the target markets that you've outlined. There's 3 of them from the videos. There's truck fleets, industrial workplaces, and then school bus fleets. Let's start with truck fleets. Clearly from the video that we played, it's a major problem. How big is that market opportunity?
Well, I mean, if you look, we've kind of categorized all 3 markets together. So there are about 4.7 million fleet vehicles in the US. And if you take all 3 of those buckets, you take fleet, manufacturing, and school bus, the entire markets are 13 billion in terms of revenue. And we've not really carved those buckets out, but there's significant opportunity in the fleet space to start, because what we'll do is when these drivers go to get their vehicles, so imagine you'll have these devices there and they'll put their fingers on the devices, and if they're alcohol free, they'll get the keys and they'll move on. So it's very significant there. In terms of the entire market, as I discussed, it's 13 billion. But I did forget to mention, George, that what we're also doing is we're working kind of parallel with the insurance carriers, because at the end of the day, not only can you save money and leverage our tool to prevent accidents and deaths, you can also, at the end of some period of time when we have the right data and we can show that we've improved those environments, there's significant opportunity to reduce liability costs. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna mention that I was gonna actually ask that further down, which is ROI. So if I'm George Com Trucking, and you come to me and say, "Hey, David, this looks like a fantastic device. It could definitely help me from a philosophical point of view, but let's get down to numbers." You know, are you guys able to provide your target markets with ROI? ROI being obviously reduced insurance, better productivity, goodwill. Look, last thing I want is George Com Trucking to be involved in a DUI accident that's killed some people. That's terrible for business. So what does the ROI look like when you guys are talking to your potential customers?
Yeah. So what we've developed is through statistics from the U.S. Department of Labor, we've developed what we call a return on detection calculator. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it's on our website today. Our potential customers can go on and they just enter a few bits of information, and that information then will spit back the potential cost of an alcohol incident, whether it be an accident, an injury, a death, or all the above. And that really gets, and creates interest as to how we can augment current insurance and what we can do to lower costs in the future. And then if you want to take the next step as a potential customer, you can enter your critical data and it'll give you information back. And just in terms of, let's take a manufacturing company with 250 employees. This comes right from the calculator. If there was an alcohol incident with that particular size light manufacturing company, their cost for to support that would be around $350,000. And as you know, George, smaller companies, especially in trucking, if they have 20 or 30 trucks out there, if they have one of those incidences, there's a great chance they'll be out of business. So the calculator really is a good starting point where we can have conversations to show the value of the device.
So when you walk into ABC Trucking and you're able to make your presentation, and what's the kind of level of excitement that you're seeing from either, I won't talk about school bus fleets, it's a little bit different, but truck fleets, industrial workplaces, what's that tertiary reaction you're getting from the owners and the principals of these companies when you're showing them what you're capable of providing them?
Yeah, they're very excited, but keep in mind it's very disruptive. So it looks like from the last 90 days of work that we've done and working with potential customers, they want the device, they appreciate the technology, and it's all about how to integrate that technology into current safety systems and how they ramp up with their employees to get to 100% yet leveraging these devices. But there's been nothing but tremendous excitement around it. Because I'll go back to the only way in a trucking company, the only way you find out if you have somebody drinking is if they get into an accident or if they're walk in and spraying and somebody can smell them. So detection is pretty difficult. And everyone's that we've talked to so far really excited about the SOBR device.
Listen, devil's advocate, no company or product is perfect. Everything's got a weakness somewhere. If you get pushback from ABC Trucking or George Calm Industrial Workplace, what is there a constant theme to pushback you're getting? Is it unions or privacy or anything like that? And how strong is that pushback? Is it manageable or something that you're going to really have to overcome?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say primarily right now that the top two challenges that we have, the first one would be COVID, right? So you've got so many processes and protocols happening within companies, temperature, leveraging, using hand sanitizer, and how many steps you have to go through right now in order for these employees to start their job. So what we've done is we've worked with a couple of different customers, and we've developed a alcohol-free hand sanitizer, so that eliminates any false reads by using this sanitizer.
Okay, good point.
So it's changing the process or changing the protocol and adding some of our technology, including the alcohol-free hand sanitizer. And then in terms of unions, we've only had maybe 10% of the companies that we're working with right now. We're actually trying not to go in through union companies right now because it will take more time. But we have a trucking company that we're working with right now that has, I think, somewhere around 2,300 drivers. They're union, and the owner of the company, the ownership said, we have a zero tolerance policy. Everybody signed to work at this company, and we're going to implement this. Them being union doesn't matter. They've signed the zero tolerance policy. So that's kind of where we're at. Another issue that's come up, I guess my third piece is identity, right? And storing individuals' identity. With SOBR, we will not, within our cloud database, we will not store any data. It's all de-identified. The customer will maintain control, in which they have information on their employees today. Nice. So those really are the top three issues that we've worked with right now, but we can work around all those challenges.
All right, so David, with all that great information in hand, let's talk about commercialization. What's your ramp up look like in terms of revenue next 12 to 24 months? And the conversation I really like to have there is what's your marketing plan? Is it going to be direct sales? Is it going to be partnership driven? Is it going to be e-commerce driven? Let's talk about what the ramp up looks like in the next 12, 24 months.
Okay, so let's take the SoberCheck device first, George. We are in production of the commercially viable devices in the first quarter, probably early February. And so we're producing those devices in the U.S. and our facility that actually is in Denver, where we are located. And so that particular aspect of the devices will be able to cover our volumes for both 21 and 22 with that facility. So in production, commercial devices, first quarter of 21. We've built a little bit of a ramp in 21 for revenue based on COVID, what we talked about earlier. We think there will be slightly longer ramp. So we built a 6-month ramp to get the customer from 0 to fully installed. And we will begin revenue in July of 21. And we will be adding, we haven't published this yet, George, so we will be providing those revenue statistics for 21 and then 22 and beyond. Okay. But that's where we stand there. And in terms of the sales group, we're still a young company. So I have great sales background. Kevin Moore, our president and CEO, he's got great sales background. And we've got 3 other individuals. So the 5 of us will be selling initially. And then we'll be building the sales force starting mid-year of next year, and some of us will be stepping back. And we'll have distribution as well. As a matter of fact, can't give you the information right now in the company, but we have our first licensing deal of our technology with a company. It's over $1 billion in the U.S., and we'll be launching in the 3rd quarter, and they'll be using our Sober technology for alcohol detection, and they'll be licensing that and installing it into their devices. And this is a pretty big and significant company. So where we have distribution, we'll look to do that. But the companies we're focusing on are a few to many that have many users. So that's our strategy initially until we get the horse and cart going at the same time. Right. And then we'll start to build the sales organization. But there'll be 5 of us initially.
Yeah, that's a good startup plan. And you brought up the potential license with $1 billion company, which is a perfect segue into my next question, which is, what does the profile of a typical customer look like? Is it George Com Trucking with, 5 trucks on the road? Is there a minimum that you want to handle? Is there a maximum that you can handle? What does the customer profile look like for Sober Safe?
So our target markets is we have already discussed, which would be school bus, fleet, and manufacturing. In each of those categories, take manufacturing, for example, the average target customer has 200, in the manufacturing space, has 200 employees.
Right.
In the fleet space, the average fleet company has 100 drivers or 100 vehicles. And then school bus, each district has 35 buses and 35 drivers within their district. So that's how we've settled our targets.
Is it too early to tell which one of those 3 target markets is going to be your lead, based on early feedback, or is it too early to determine that right now?
Well, I think with school bus here in the U.S., the COVID pandemic has really pushed school buses and schools off to, months and months in advance. So right now we're looking at that as our 3rd strategic bucket. So manufacturing will come first. Fleet will come second, and school bus will be behind it. But I might add, we are a member of the NAPT, which is the National Association for Pupil Transport. We will be on the cover of that magazine in February, and we've already had interest. But again, the money's been diverted right now to cleaning buses, and there's less students. So we think we'll make a significant impact there, but we're going to kind of push that off to 3rd in order because of COVID and what's happening right now.
Dave, it's really impressive. I love the fact that you know your markets, the profile of each of those markets, which ones are going to rank, and for good reason. That's always a great sign when the chief revenue officer really knows his stuff. And that's a sign of the team that you guys have here. So look, with any small cap, it's very important that you bet on the jockeys as much as the horse, because in the small cap world, you got to be more entrepreneurial. You got to be more resourceful. None of us are IBM. None of us are Amazon. We don't have unlimited resources. So let's talk a little bit. I know we can't go over the whole team, but this isn't the first rodeo for you guys over there. So maybe you can give us a couple of the key players, including yourself, the kind of success you've had in the past, and to why that points to a winning team that can potentially do it again.
Yeah. Okay. So we were very, very fortunate. Kevin Moore, our president and CEO, initially invested in SOBR Safe, and I've known Kevin for probably over 30 years. He's a great athlete, and I met him through playing hockey many years ago. But he's just a tremendous guy. And once he saw what we had here, he decided that he wanted to make a difference. He wanted to have a legacy, as part of his financial kingdom that he's developed over time. And so he joined us. He has 3 successful exits. He's got background in manufacturing and testing. So it was just a perfect fit for my background. But Kevin is a tried and tested leader. He's very successful, and he runs the business. It does a tremendous job. And again, this is something he's doing because of his passion, to save lives and affect individuals. So he, along with me, my background is I'm mostly a technology guy, software, fiber, outsourcing technology. And I've spent the last 35 years, my career, basically building businesses, raising money, and either getting them across the line or not, which is the story. I mean, not every business is a success, right?
Nope, not every startup can get there,
I've had 3 successful exits, and between my experience with technology and Kevin's experience with manufacturing and testing, it was a perfect fit for us. And we have a tremendous amount of contacts in the business world. And a lot of these contacts will be our first customers. And we'll be able to announce that and talk about that, in the first quarter. And then we've got, you remember, all this, George, is all about patent protection, IP protection, because we've got, the data portion of this, we've got the platform portion of this, and we've got the equipment portion of this technology. And so we brought on an individual named Dean Watson. He's our CTO, but he's also an engineer and a patent attorney. And he's been able to build and forge some of these agreements. We filed additional provisionals around the patents that we already had to give us tremendous protection, because we know that once we get to the market, as a first to market, there's going to be other companies chasing this space because it's so massive. So between Kevin, myself, and Dean, there's just a tremendous symbiotic relationship between all of us, and we're all trying to make a difference in what we do in people's lives going forward. And then probably our biggest asset on the board of directors is an individual named Steve Bebout that we just picked up recently, maybe over the past 3 months. And Steve's an investor, and Steve was with Stars Entertainment for about 20 years. But other than that, he was there as their general counsel and senior executive. But he's been a GC senior executive for over the past 40 years.
Great.
He's a great background in public compliance, and he's done multi-billion-dollar global deals with Disney, Comcast, Netflix. I mean, the guy's got tremendous background in Moxie, and he's been really helpful in working with us in building these contracts. And then the licensing agreements and things like that we talked about earlier. He's just been tremendous add to the team.
Well, that's a great, and I'm sure you got many other guys you want to talk about, but that kind of leadership. That's when you got six successful exits between you and Kevin and the kind of team you guys have put together. That's really important. I'm really glad that we got a chance to look after this. I want to ask one more question. You look like you pulled off a great move there by bringing on a Greek guy, Steven Skofis. Is he Greek? Sounds like it.
He's a Greek. He's on your team. So
well,
yes.
That's probably the best sign of all then. But you brought him on, all kidding aside, as the director of government relations. And I took a look at the news, and he's represented companies like Toyota, Kroger, Eli Lilly, Dell, Google, Cisco, Nokia, Blackstone. I mean, wow. And his partner is retired now, General Wesley Clark. So talk to us a little bit about this governmental relations side. Where are you going with that?
Yeah, so just briefly just quickly about Steve. You know, he was a football player in Arizona and Michigan State, and I played hockey at Michigan State. So that's kind of our main bond. But really, what Steve wanted to do is he wanted to make a difference. And after we talked to Steve and presented to him a few months back, he said to us, you know, Dave, I get a lot of companies that want to work with me and leverage my contacts and my expertise. He goes, I want to work with you guys because I think we can make a difference. And I've got a lot of contacts and I think I can help deliver and be part of this cause. So what Steve will be working on is he's a lobbyist and he's got tremendous connections. His objective is to bring us on the business side into you mentioned some of those companies, the very, very large companies at the C level. So we could talk about what we had to offer. We talk about how our product or how our sober check would affect these companies and change these environments and make safer lives. And second, there's a possibility that we might see the public safety piece that I talked to you about, where we're doing a license agreement, get into police departments, state police, and possibly even the military. But that's a 12 to 18 month cycle, but he's already on and he's making some progress. So it's to open up new markets that would really benefit off the sober check in some of the other technology that we're working with right now.
David, I got to tell you, man, this has been a great webcast. Phenomenal to learn about a fantastic product, great technology, great people behind it. As a result of those people, you had a great plan on how to roll this out. And I can't wait to have you back again more and more and more, because you just got onto the OTCQB. That's why a lot of people don't know you yet. And the story's just going to build. But I want to thank you big time for taking this time out to talk to us today. And I'm more excited than ever about SOBR Safe and about the technology than I was even half an hour ago. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll have you back again.
Thanks again, George, and everybody at Agoracom. We really appreciate the opportunity.
You've been watching, or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, or your favorite podcast sites, to David Gandini, Chairman, Chief Revenue Officer at SOBR Safe. That's SOBR Safe, and you can see it right over his left shoulder there. Trades on the OTCQB under the stock symbol SOBR. Look, this is new technology. It's groundbreaking, so you may not get all of it in just one sitting. Don't worry about it. Get to the SOBR Safe Hub on Agoracom. Get to the profile page. We've neatly laid out the company for you, really in a concise, very understandable, very compelling way. And there are more videos on there for you to watch. You watched the 2 in the intro. They've got a couple more on there. They're short, they're powerful, and I think those will definitely incentivize all of you to continue doing your due diligence. Put SOBR Safe on your watch list, and hopefully today you discovered your next great small cap company. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.